Yeah, exactly, Nolan. I don't think we can have a better round 2 than a Lime Rock Park. It's one of the most challenging tracks that a GT4 will have to face, especially because of the uphill right-hander that they will have to face so many times. So it's really going to be interesting because we also don't know how really the multi-class will function at this facility with such tight confines.
About 6 turns to the right and only 2 to the left make up this 1.5-mile facility. It is bound to be an extremely exciting race here today. Qualifying currently underway as we watch the TCRs and the GT4s throwing themselves around this facility. You were mentioned the GT4s in particular will be having struggles, particularly with oversteer over the crests. Some pretty violent elevation changes here, in all honesty. But then you got to remember the TCRs as well. They could experience some pretty violent understeer over the exact same crests.
Yeah, exactly. It is that little bit of interesting feature that we have. It doesn't really have too much elevation change, just in 2 corners in reality. But that is the one thing, that elevation change is incredibly violent, and thus it creates a little bit of that spicy little nice feeling inside our great dish that we have sitting here in front of us.
With just about 3 minutes remaining here in qualifying, we take a look now to the top of the scoreboards. We're currently watching Michael Stogebauer currently making his way around in that number 16 Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport in that number 5 machine with the 16 on the car. It's going to be a very interesting run for these guys here today. He's just now coming through what is my personally favorite corner you can get on the service, so close over to the left of the barriers. These guys have got to be so incredibly careful and find ourselves throwing through these corners here.
And nobody can say that they have never driven Lime Rock Park since it is a base track that you get with your iRacing subscription. Pretty much everybody and their mother have raced at this circuit, and that obviously also narrows down our time differences that we will see in today's race.
So qualifying is just currently wrapping on up here. A lot of these drivers have already completed their laps, and they're just kind of darting their way down and off into the pit road here. There you see Chris Braun entering the pit lane at the moment. He is currently 15th place with a 53.142. That's a good almost 2 seconds off of the race leader's time up in first. Take a look at Riley Downey here. He has not yet set a qualifying lap, and he's only got a minute 20 to do so. He's on his first lap now. He will not be able, though, to get that second lap in, meaning he is going to have to make this one count.
And this is probably one of the trickiest corners for the TCR, that right-hander before going down the hill. There's so much understeer involved in that turn because of how much throttle you have to carry through it. That will probably be right now the main talking point for these cars, except for obviously the left-hander. That is turn 3, as Downey comes over the line in 13th place actually.
It's still second last, though, overall. It still is about a 10th ahead of Tom Edmonds, but it is, well, it's almost a second behind Damien Owen Harris, so not the best of laps there for Riley Downey to kick off his qualifying run. He's going to have to try to improve here, but with only half a minute to go and still a good 3/4 of the track to circle, I don't think he's going to be able to get there in time.
Yeah, I don't think either that he's gonna be able to make that happen. But one thing that I'm a little bit surprised about is the time spread in the GT4s. I have to say that we have nearly 2.5 seconds between first and last, and that is a little bit unexpected.
Qualifying is complete. Let's throw things on over to the starting grid. Kicking things off on pole position, Tom Bland in the BMW M4 GT4 is going to start things off on pole position with Max Kvara just about 100th of a second behind in the second place. Xavier Schwartzman is going to be in row number 2 in the third position with Christopher Fuchs in the fourth position. Gillian Salomon in 5th place rounds out the top 5 for the GT4s with Aluzio Bene Drugovic in the 6th position. Alessandro Barbagallo is going to be in 7th with Michael Stoschbauer in 8th. Cesar Corregel in 9th with Isaac Beekman rounding out the top 10. Isaac Wu will start 11th with Kevin Deline in 12th. Calvin Connors in 13th. Ignacio De Luca in 14th. Chris Braun in 15th. Rounding out the 16-car GT4 field is going to be Hector Camacho. 2 seconds off the leader's pace and 8/10 off of the first car in front of him. For the TCRs, it's going to be Juan Bustamante in the first position with Batiste Schneider in the second. Corentin Guenes in third with Miguel Freitas in fourth. Isaac Jane in 5th position with Michael Polasek in the 6th. Damian Owen Harris in the 7th with George Simmons, last week's photo finisher for the second position, all the way down in 8th. Alexis Tapio Vico in 9th. Matthew Crispin 10th. Ismael Habib Jimenez in 11th place with Chesido Vincent in the 12th position. Rounded out a 14-car TCR field will be Wiley Downey and Tom Edmonds. 1.6 seconds separate the TCR back markers from the TCR leaders. So it's going to be a pretty interesting race here, because we can see that some of these guys, like the fastest TCRs, they're only about half a second off the fastest of the off the slowest, of the GT4 runners.
Yeah, and the big thinking point for our TCR leader is going to be how much gap do I want to leave to the slowest GT4, because obviously you want to have that gap, but at the same time you can't leave too much of a gap, because then you run into the risk of getting a lap by the GT4 leaders way too earlier than you expect, and that might cause a little bit of problems for you later down the line, because they might come around for a second time to lap you. So it is really interesting how Juan is going to handle that, as he seems to have left about 5 seconds of a gap, a bit more, maybe even 10 seconds, to the last guy, that is Hector Camacho.
Kind of going through the not straight, it's pretty much a straight where in pretty much any car you can just straight line it entirely the way through, but it is a bit of a left-right flick, making up 2 of the 8 turns on the racetrack. We're kind of over the final couple of corners here. So, your final thoughts here, Stefan, before we take that green flag.
It's gonna be hectic, it might be chaotic, so really buckle down, get some popcorn and enjoy the show, because these 30 minutes might be the ride of your lifetime.
It'll soon be in the hands of Tom Bland as he goes through the pedestrian bridge through the final corner of the day. This is going to be one of the most thrilling corners to watch, especially in these opening laps and when leaders, if they catch lap traffic. Pace car is going to pull off. Tom Bland trying to get an early jump. Green flag will drop. The question is, did Bland go too early, and did he get a penalty potentially for jumping that race? So we'll have to wait and see, but the GT4 is off and away down in turn number 1. Side by side already contact, crashing 2-3 around at the exit of turn number 1 and all the way into the runoff. Only 2 cars around. Some of the rest of the field stays great. Here come the DCRs though, right up on this mess. Will the leading drop this time at the start? The Porsche comes back on right in front of the DCR midfield, but it looks like we are going to be clean and green, almost banging wheels with Tapia Vico and Alessandro Barbagallo in that Porsche GT4, who's got a long way to go if he wants to catch up to the remainder of the GT4 field.
There's Drugovic on your screen right now, the number 30 car, really not the start. Aluzio wanted, but still there's not too much harm done, because he still can race and can recover from this crash right here, as we see him turn his car around. There we have him spun around. So really, I don't know really what happened there between those 2 cars. Let's have a look from the chopper view then with Drugovic. Oh, that was 4 wide even.
Yeah, trying to go 4 wide in turn 1. Definitely not the way to do it. It's never going to work out quite the way you would expect it to. That is so unfortunate, though, for those drivers who are just trying to keep it clean at the start. It's not going to happen today, though. So massive unfortunate. Looks like another big crash here. The GT4s as Juan Bustamante is in pit road. It was a big crash with the GT4s. The 24 car appeared to have been collected in this one, so massive problems here for Hector Camacho, who appeared to be right at the center of all of this.
Oh my
wow!
goodness!
Huge hit. Right in front of the track, too, so that collected probably a good 7-8 cars. The big one here on lap number 2 at Lime Rock Park. We'll have to take a look back and see what the heck happened here. It was one of the Porsche GT4s stopped in the middle of the track, right on board with Juan Bustamante here. The driver stopped in the middle of the track was Hector Camacho in that 24 machine, who was well down the order now. He's just got to come around the corner in the smoke, can't really see, and then just, the Porsche came on right in front of him too. Wow, that is not good at all for these drivers.
Oh, and look at the mess it caused to the midfield as well. But yeah, Juan Bustamante, no side whatsoever, as we were able to see that on his cockpit camera. And then obviously the GT4, yes, they did move there to the inside, but in all reality, Juan Bustamante, who would not have been able to avoid that crash. I'm pretty sure of that.
Nasty, nasty incident in just the second lap of the race here. Another car just gone off. Isaac Wu just took another slide at turn 3 again for the GT4s. He was side by side in a battle for the 8th position. So this has turned out to be an incredibly messy start to the race for your GT4 field, as the TCRs, they just seem to get caught up at every corner, just trying to keep it clean, but they're just not able to because the GT4s keep coming on and blocking the track. We'll take a look at a replay of this latest incident now. Coming down the front straightaway, I believe that's 9th place, just behind Wu there. Ooh. Just sends him around in turn 1.
And yeah, he did just slide the wall, but good save nonetheless for Isaac Wu. And by the way, with all the kerfuffle that was created in this class here, in the TCRs, it's now Miguel Freitas who is leading that class, the Iberian driver. A great show from him thus far. Has already created a little bit of a gap behind, as you can see, 6/10 back to Isaac Jan, and it's another 4/10 back to Michael Polasek. So if he can keep up this pace, and I know Miguel quite well from racing against him for about 2 seasons in the TCRs, he is extremely strong the longer the race goes.
Those Porsche GT4s that you can see, you saw kind of in the background there, coming down that straightaway there, the Samposi straight. That is not the race leaders. Those are Porsches that were collected in the opening laps in their own separate incidents, just trying to go on these recovery drives here. Let's take a look, though, at the GT4 battle for the race lead, because it is certainly heated on up. Tom Bland is really having to fend off Max Claro, who's going to try to go for the inside here for the lead into turn number 1, side by side with it. The Porsche trying to get the advantage here over the BMW, but just won't have it in that 14 machine. He's got to slot back in line here so he can allow Bland to get in for that second apex on turn 1. Has to do the same thing for turn 2, but if that 14 car can get the run he needs off of that final corner, he could have a pretty good shot here down to the turn 1 next time by.
Yeah, very much so. And one thing that I also just realized, looking at a little bit the info stats that we have here in our booth, the track temperature, it has been cooler than I have seen pretty much all day long thus far. Most sessions, or pretty much all sessions, were above 33 degrees Celsius on the track temperature, but right now, because of the overcast weather we have, it's only 27 degrees Celsius on the track, so that might also play a little bit in favor of the Porsche, who should be normally a little bit slower than the BMW because of the core strengths that M4 has.
And a lot for the 4th place, and contact is made. Christoph Fuchs just trying to have a go at Gillian Sullivan for 5th place here in the GT4 category. In fact, positions did just swap last time by down the front straightaway. Sullivan got a brilliant run around the outside and dipped 2 wheels into the grass off of the final corner to get the overspeed that he needed to get the pass done. So these two are battling really hard here for that 4th position. Fuchs gave him the bumper in turn 1 as well, trying to move, and look at the front ends lifting up as they come flying over the crest of the hill. Goodness gracious, this is going to be certainly something as we watch them once again diving through that final corner. One more car off 4th place in the TCRs.
That's Simmons. Simmons around. What happened to George Simmons? Remember, he was fighting for that 2nd place last time around. Only was in 9th place as well, so really not the race Simmons wanted. what is happening here? Is that GT4 going? Oh no!
Side by side through turn 1, you'll be fine. Turn 2 is a bit iffy, but turn 3, well, you're asking for trouble at that point, and Simmons did try to kind of force the issue there around the outside of 3, so we'll have to take a look on board with Simmons here. Through turn 2, still clean, and then turn 3 just didn't leave his opponent a whole lot of room to go.
Kinda telling though, I have to say, Simmons struggling today, and then also this hit here sends him all the way to the pretty much back end of all cars that are still running, down in 24th overall. So really not the race George was looking forward to, especially after such a great start to his campaign in Sebring.
Simmons, of course, was the driver that had just managed to pull out that second place at a 2,000th of a second photo finish over the third place driver in that 30-minute sprint to open up the season. It was one of the most thrilling battles we had seen in a very long time. So the fact that we see him dropping so far back so early on is a massive shame here. You see the battle for P1 in the TCR field is still nice and close, but you have this Porsche here of Alessandro Barbagallo, a driver that was collected in the first lap in melees, just trying to find his way through. He is still on his recovery drive and still has not been able to clear the TCR race leaders. He should be able to get around here around Miguel Freitas easily, though. Goes to the right side of the racetrack, and Freitas breaks earlier. That allows Isaac James to close right on up through the back bumper of that number 9 Audi RS3 LMS. So this could be crucial here in this battle for the first position in this class. You also have DeLuca just behind these guys, who's also going to be fighting for these guys for position. So these guys are not getting the blue flags for these GT4s because technically they're racing for overall position.
Yeah, not only that, but Connors and Drugovic also in behind. That's that BMW and Porsche combination, the two Porsches in behind. Those are also going to get past them without having be dished out any blue flags to these TCRs, and obviously these passes are the hardest because you don't really see them unless you really are looking firm into your mirrors.
It's worth noting that some people might be thinking, why are these guys getting involved in this battle for a class lead? But you got to remember, these GT4s darting their way through, they're also in their own battle for positions. Unfortunately, as unpleasant as it is just a trait of multi-class racing that you have to get used to on shorter tracks like these, seeing your runs really kind of chopped off by machines like these. It is so unfortunate. Take a look back up front here, though, to this battle for the overall race lead with Mara still trying to find any kind of way. As the blend, oh my word, both cars nearly running into the grass that time by over the crest.
And it's such an easy mistake to do lap after lap. I've seen a lot of GT4s crash here in practice. And thus far, these guys have been able to avoid that with the 14 Camaro having a big slide out of the last turn. But the good thing is, these guys are fighting hard. They're pushing themselves into mistakes. And look who is behind just there through your shot. He goes, the orange and blue car of Xavier Schwarzmann, who is able to somewhat stick with them. And if they start to fight and even pressure themselves into bigger mistakes, Schwarzmann will be right there to take advantage.
At this point, Schwarzmann is definitely one of these guys to get side by side, going through some of these tighter one-line corners, because he knows that means one of them is going to have to back out massively. And at the moment, that car that's going to have to back out might be Clara here, because if he keeps on getting so close to the edges of those tracks, sooner or later he's going to find his tires in the grass. And we've seen many times in practice cars getting into that grass and slamming to the wall. Somebody's even flipped it over. That time for sure was in the grass there on the exit of the final corner, getting a big draft all the way down the pit straight here into turn number 1. Just clipping the curves a bit for the leader in front. Now Kamar's trying to make a lunge for the position for the second apex, but wasn't able to get that nose in there.
And that's exactly what I was talking about. The 14 really pushing the back end of Balan. And I don't think Balan can withstand this pressure for much longer if he continues to put it on.
You know, we saw in the last race at Sebring, it was the GT4s that were getting all spread out, and now the TCRs were the ones that we had to look for these close battles. Seems to be vice versa here for Lime Rock Park, because now it's the GT4s that are nice and close, so the TCRs are the ones that have been spreading out. As the gap had increased to about 1 second between first and second for the first time all day, So these GT4s, this battle for the lead is among one of the closest battles that we got on the circuit at the moment, but it is just so difficult for these cars to pass here. I think that's going to prove a massive challenge for that 14 car to really close the gap.
Obviously, that big crash on lap 2 that did split up the TCRs, did contribute to the big gaps we see in that class right now. I mean, big gaps, it's only a second for first, so it's still pretty much anybody's game in the TCR lead with that 4-car battle we have there. So, yeah, but right now, as I said, GT4s are the main talking point here, and Kamara really wanting to have that first place right now. He seems to be the faster car, but just can't get past that BMW power through the turns.
Take a look up front, though. Lap traffic. That's Ismael Habib Jimenez running to the 25th overall position at the moment. So we could get lap traffic interfere with this battle for the race lead. So this could get tight here, depending on where these guys catch that lap car, and more importantly, if that lap car lets them through. Now, that DCR will be getting a blue flag saying to let these guys through, but it could be, it's going to be an interesting scenario here because they're going to catch at probably one of the worst possible times you can catch lap traffic at, and that is going to be right at that uphill crest. Sure enough, at this point, Tom Bland is going to be held up by that TCR as we come over the top of the hill. He is going to have nowhere to go. He's going to have to go to the right side, but that puts him offline here for the corner. This will allow Kamara to close right on in as they almost make contact with TCR. Now Kamara's going to try to go for it here in the final corner, a very one-line corner, but it looks like that number 14 car going to take the smart move there and back out.
There is never a good timing for someone to catch traffic, except for maybe the front stretch, but even that not really long enough. As you can see, Schwartzman still stuck behind the TCR that he has to lap, losing him crucial time to the lead battle. He did close up because of the TCR, but now he's obviously losing massive times. And look at that, we have once again, it seems like a fight for first. Oh no, sorry, that's a different car, my bad. That's obviously Damon Owen Harris, also a guy who was fighting for that second place in Sebring.
Battle for fourth place is on at the TCRs, it would seem, as Harris is trying to maybe pick up yet another podium finish here, but for now, he's got quite a ways to go before he'll be able to reel that on in. He's running fourth right now, and he's got himself a good 2 seconds up to Polasek that he's going to have to close in before he'll be able to fight for another position. But for now, that fiercely forward machine looking very strong out there on the racetrack right now as he is trying to fend off Baptiste Schneider, who is just 0.4 of a second behind.
It is still very early in the championship because we're only right now nearly halfway through the second race of the season. But don't forget Harris, he, if I remember correctly, placed third in Sebring, and having a fourth place here would, if I got my calculations in my head correctly, boot him up to first place in the TCR Championship standings. So obviously a very good showing for him already thus early in the season.
The GT4 battles are heating up again. Tom Bland is being held up by more TCR traffic all the way through the second half of the lap. Kamara was not able to find a way through, but he is all over the back end of that BMW, and he's going to be trying to find a way through. There's still more TCR traffic up ahead in the forms of Chastel Vincent and Tom Evans, and those guys are in a battle for position as well in their own class. So the question is going to be for those touring cars just ahead of these guys, do they move out of the way or do they keep battling for their own positions? Because those guys, technically, they don't have to move aside. They are more than allowed to keep battling for their own positions here. But Kamara, he is closing in fast, so he might try something drastic here as we now enter the second half of the race.
I remember we are having the American multi-class flags, and the blue flag the Americans use is only an informational flag. It only says caution, faster car approaching.
It does, not quite like the FIA where you have to move aside or you get penalized. It is an advisory flag, not a command flag. Now Bland is going to go defensive to force Kamara all the way to the outside of the racetrack. The two touring cars are side by side in front of them here. Again, those two cars battling for position, so this is going to get very hairy here. These guys trying to dart their way through and make it through cleanly. Now it's just not one car, because Bland's had enough trouble getting past one car, but then trying to get around two cars while they're side by side position, that's going to be a whole different story here. So he closes up on these guys, and again, the worst possible time to catch lap traffic over the crest with nowhere to go. He's going to go to the right side of the racetrack to find a way through, but he is going to get held up big time here through these lines. Kamara's going to have to try to find a way through the inside as well. But now, once again, Kamara on the upper hand here as Blanc gets held up by the touring car on corner exit, allowing Kamara to get the overspeed on him and start to reel him in with the draft.
The good thing is the TCR isn't really slow through the final corner, so that didn't hold up Tom Boland too much, but obviously it did hold him up. And once again, the biggest loser of our top three guys is Schwartzman. He only got past one car, and now he's stuck behind the TCR in, I think, 4th place overall, or sorry, 5th place overall. So yeah, look at that. Immediately lost like a second and a half just through that corner section up to turn 5.
One car sideways up the hill here. You see him just off to the right. That's Calvin Connors out of 21st position, who had a spin. One of the first spins we've seen over the crest of the hill, just a lone spin all on him by himself, where that 26 car saw him back it up, not even hit the barrier, thank goodness. But Connors still sideways there, still trying to back it up, get it going. He's being nice and patient here. He's waiting for a good gap, which is absolutely fantastic for that 26 car. I think now he's going to pull right in front of the GT4 cars, or the DCRs, excuse me. My goodness. That was back to Brisbane. Riley Downey that were just darting their way through. That was way too close for comfort. You see it, just lost it over the crest all by himself. Back end gets light, and there's no saving it.
Not at all. By the way, this is the first spin I have seen this afternoon that went to the inside, and I have no words for this. Calvin Connors.
Oh, hang on. We got a big battle going on TCRs between the 10 and the 11 car that just spun out a GT4 machine as well. Isaac Lewis was collected in a massive battle with the two TCRs. And there you see the replay. The cars come back on tracks. The two car numbers that were involved in this were the 17 and the 10 in that big battle. They had just passed Calvin Connors as well, the driver who had just started off. So we're going to take a look at this replay. That's the Porsche that got involved just behind them here. So take a look at this as we watch this unbelievable three-wide battle with the Porsche trying to get around them.
Yeah, crisp to the outside here. Oh, the switcheroo for the 10, and oh no! Good save though from the 17, and then gets collected. That poor Porsche has nothing to do with that, but he gets the worst of all of it.
Well, when you see two TCRs battling so hard like that side by side, in all honesty, it might just be better to back off.
Oh, hold up! Max Kamara is stopped outside of turn 1.
Oh no, he was the driver that was running the second place all day long, so Kamara going to be in pit road now, so something big has happened here to that second place runner. What has happened here to Kamara, who was off and in the grass? We're gonna have to take another look at this. Oh no! Interclass traffic trying to get through. That's Simmons again, and oh wow! Way too deep on the brakes, was never gonna make the corner, and poor Simmons right in the middle of that slammed that tire barrier.
Yeah, both of these cars obviously retired from that smash, and look at that once again, just too fast for the 14, even loses the tire here. So that 14 is not going to go anywhere, and an extremely hard hit as well for Simmons. Both cars not going to be able to recover whatsoever from that. Yeah, just too late. Was kind of lucky there, Belen as well. That could have been so much more uglier.
Wow. That is about as unfortunate as it could have gotten. So all of a sudden, George Simmons is gone from having a very good season. Well, the season's just taking a massive nosedive with that last incident there. Not at all how we wanted to see that end. But take a look up now. These were the two cars that are battling really hard that collected that other driver earlier in the Porsche here. This is the battle for second place here in the TCRs as well, it's worth noting. That is Isaac Jane and Blanka Polasek do battling right now, with Damien O'Harris trying to reel him in 1.9 seconds back. These guys have been battling really hard though, and I think Polasek just used up all of his stuff. He had a very bad line in that last corner.
Yeah, Polasek seems to be struggling a little bit with the pace that Jan is showing right now. Can't really keep up with the fiercely forward driver, and obviously he's in a fiercely forward sandwich like we see right now. Front and back is fiercely forward, and if he isn't careful, we might see a little bit of gamesmanship here for the 4th place driver. that is Harris still, and I think Harris is actually able to chase down a little bit Polasek, so Polasek really struggling, and obviously all of this is really nice for Freitas up ahead in first place. There we're able to see him very shortly. He's driving off in the sunset, nearly 2 seconds already in front of him.
Under 10 minutes remaining in this race as we ride on board the Polasek. There you can see the race leader for the TCR is just going through that next corner up there. Worth noting as well that Tom Bland, the overall race leader, is just a little ways behind these guys too. In fact, it was through one of these probably pretty wide angles here of the Samposi Strait. You should be able to see, there he is, that BMW just there crossing off at the exit of the final corner, blazing down the home stretch. And that Porsche behind him, that is the second place runner, trying to chase him down of Xavier Schwartzman, who now is all of a sudden got a pretty good shot here at a race win. So we'll have to keep eyes on both these battles. You got P2 in the TCR's heat up. The battle for the race lead certainly has not gone away, but these guys have only got just under 10 minutes to get this thing settled.
And the bad thing right now is, look at that, Bland really stuck behind the TCR, only now gets past him. Was stuck since turn 1 behind the TCR, so really bad timing for Bland, but look at that now. Schwartzman is now going to get stuck himself behind the TCR, so he can't get past for at least this turn. Might just try something here through the final turn. No, not going to do that, so all the time he just went through the infield of Limebrook Park, if you want to call it like that. He just lost that in 2 turns.
One good thing if you're a race leader on a track like this, you know that any lap traffic that you catch, the car behind you is going to have to deal with as well. And it's probably going to lose the same amount of time as you, if not more. And in this case, Schwartzman definitely lost more time than Bland did. So Bland picked a good time at around that machine. Now, though, he's got to stay focused here on Damian Owen Harris. 4th place of the DCR is just in front of him. And to give a little blink of the lights there to get by that fiercely forward TCR, but Bland does get through there completely cleanly. It's going to be tight here in this battle for the race lead, because any one lap car put in the nose wrong, we could see a pretty massive incident here.
And it is easy to do that at a track like Limebrook Park. It is such a narrow track because it is configured for club racing. Even though IMSA likes to throw GTEs around, it really is not a track that is even designed for GT4 cars, let alone TCRs. So it's really an intricate situation that these guys have to deal lap after lap, corner after corner. Because while it looked like that Schwartzman got off worse the last lap around, actually he did gain 2/10 on Tom Bland, and yet again he did pretty much drive the exact same time like Bland. So it might look bad, the situation you're in right now, but it actually is still gaining you. But the biggest problem that Schwartzman has to fight against is that clock on the top left. It's only 5.5 minutes. That's 6 laps that these guys have to do. And like Bland right now, every single car you have to lap is a good thing, because that means that Xavier is also going to lose some time on you.
Unfortunately, though, for Bland, he lost a good half a second, though, through those couple corners, and the TCR is going to cut off Xavier Schwartzman. That's what Bland wants to see. I have a feeling Schwartzman might not be too happy with that, though. I mean, he's battling for the overall race lead, so he might just be thinking at this point with Polasek, get out of my way. I'm coming through. I got a car I need to pass up there. And he knows he has to get by Polasek and quick. Now he's going to get through on the right side. And good on Schwartzman to use that brake pedal to avoid being taken out here. But now Blank gets held up again by the other fiercely forward machine of Isaac Jane, and that is going to allow Schwartzman to close in even more time. But despite all of that, with the times gained and lost, the gap is still hovering at about between 6 and 9/10 of a second. Schwartzman is not really able to close in any more than that.
Yeah, it most definitely seems like Bland is the more aggressive driver here in the traffic. Schwartzman a little bit more cautious around these cars, which I really do like from Schwartzman. Really doesn't take too many risks. He knows that this might be a really great position, that he could potentially finish him, because 3rd place in the TCRs, there you can see him. That's the green Porsche in behind of Gillian Salomon, the number 20 car. And that already is about, what, 3 or maybe 4 seconds between those.
battle for the race lead certainly is not yet over, but at this moment, this battle for second of the TCRs is definitely a heck of a lot closer. Just half a second separated them. Jane got a little bit twitchy last time by over the crest of the hill there in that uphill section. Jane is still doing a good job here, though, at trying to kind of get this out of there, trying to keep himself on the track here as best as he can and keep that gap up. He still has lap traffic that's going to be trying to get by both of them. But I honestly think he'll be able to pull this one off and fend him off for that second position. He's been doing such a good job all day long. I don't see any reason why Jane would make a mistake that would send him off and allow Pulisic to take that position, unless GG4 traffic has anything to say about it.
Yeah, I'm quite with you there. Yeah, he has made not a single mistake. He hasn't even let Pulisic anywhere close to him. The gap has always hovered around that half a second like we have right now between the two. And yeah, he hasn't put a foot wrong thus far in these 27 minutes of racing, and I don't think he will do that for the last 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
1.5 seconds now separate the top two in the GT4 class, showing that once again Bland is oh wow, one fiercely forward car way up into the grass in the background there. That was Baptiste Schneider that just had a big off, I believe. Check that, not him. Damien Owen Harris was the driver that had a big off through the final corner there. That was a big one for that 3 machine who cleaned off the circuit, nearly hit the tires as well, just missed the apex and carried too much speed out on the exit.
He already was wide through the second last turn, and then probably because that had some dirt on his tires still going into the last turn, but kept it quite nice, kept it calm, kept it cool, and got it out of the grass once again. So good drive here by Harris. Lost him a little bit of time, but still, I don't think he's really going to be able to complain about this 4th place.
A lot of the battles at this point have pretty much been settled on the track. In fact, Pulisic is now How is Pulisic 3.7 seconds behind Jane? They were just half a second apart 1 lap ago. So something had to have happened there to that A car, or something went wrong there for him. Interesting one there. After the leaders, I was reading the scoreboard wrong. My mistake on that one. He is still very much within 6/10 in the fight. So my mistake there, read that scoreboard wrong.
And one thing I just realized, we might just about sneak in another lap after this one. It is 1 minute and 2 seconds remaining, so Tom Bland, he's doing 53-second laps. This is going to be really close to get his time around. Oh, not quite, just 1 second, a little bit more than that, and Tom Bland would have gotten another lap in.
We're not going to have to, we don't know if this will be the last lap, though, because it was really close. And, you know, sometimes there is that little bit of a delay between when the timer runs out to when the white flag is officially called. So you never know. We could get that 1 lap. 30 seconds on the clock. And just another 30 seconds more, potentially, for Tom Bland in this race. This is, at the moment, one of the only battles he got on the track here for the 2nd position in the TCR category. Pulisic is doing a phenomenal job so far. Isaac Jane has been doing a good job of fending them off, but meanwhile, we take a look up now to Tom Bland through that final corner. Will this be the checkered flag, or will it be taken for the white flag? It will be the checker. Tom Bland takes victory here at Lime Rock Park, and Bland with the GT4 machine going to fly off into the runoff area. Beautifully run there for that machine to fend off Xavier Schwartzman in the battle for 2nd place in the TCRs. Pulisic continues to have his run, not able to reel in Isaac Jane, who once again did a phenomenal job of being able to close in that, or keep that gap at bay and keep Pulisic at bay as well. Great battling across the track here. There is your race winner for the TCRs, Miguel Freitas, trying to do a bit of power sliding there through the turns 1 and 2 and weave it across the track. Somebody's been excited about their class win today.
And once again, it stood true to what I said earlier. Freitas, the second half of the race is his strong suit, and he most definitely did pull most of his gap right when the GT4s came around. He's so incredibly good in traffic. And this guy, if he continues to race in this series throughout the season, he might be the biggest shot for the championship.
All of the drivers have crossed the checkered flag. So with that, let's take a rundown now at your post-race results, now official from iRacing. Tom Bland takes victory by 2.6 seconds over Xavier Schwartzman, the Frenchman. It's a Frenchman 2, 3, 4 with Gillian Sullivan rounded out the podium. Christophe Husch is going to be in the 4th position with Miguel Stojbauer in the 5th position. Isaac Beekman is in 6th with Cesar Carragel in 7th. Kevin Deline is going to be in 8th with Chris Braun. 9th, Alessandro Barbagallo going to round out the top 10 in the GT4 category. Alucio Bena Dugovic is going to be in 11th place with Isaac Wu in 12th, the last driver on the lead lap for your GT4 field. And in fact, I believe the last finisher as well, as Calvin Connors is in the 13th position, 2 laps down. 6 down is going to be Ignacio De Luca. Max Clara is going to be in the 15th position with Hector Camacho. 33 laps down, taken out in lap number 1. For the TCR class, Miguel Freitas is your race winner on the day. 2 seconds behind is Isaac Jean, and just 1.1 seconds behind Jean is going to be Miguel Polasek. Damien Owen Harris is going to be in 4th with Baptiste Schneider in the 5th position. Alexis Tapiovico in 6th. Chassanon Vincent in 7th. Tom Edmonds 8th. Ishmael Habib Jimenez in 9th with Corentin Guenes rounding out the top 10 for the TCRs for the day. It's going to be George Simmons in 11th, not finishing the race, along with Matthew Crisp, Riley Downey, and Justin Bustamante, 32 laps down. Unfortunate for those drivers who are taken out, for the couple drivers who are taken out in the early stages of the race, the others retiring roughly around halfway. And so comes to a close round number 2 of the iRacing IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. And goodness me, what an opening to the season we've had. An exciting first 2 races. I think this is about as good of a start to a season as we could have possibly hoped for.
Yeah, and 2 completely different tracks as well. We've seen very great racing on both tracks. Yes, we had our hiccups this time around, but that was to be expected. It is Lime Rock Park. It is a club circuit. And these guys, they have to race on such close confines. But next time around, Barcelona, that will really show us who is strong this season and who is not so strong in the or a broader variety of tracks, because Barcelona is such a well-known track for pretty much everybody, even outside of Europe, that you can't really, like on Lambo Park, hide much of stuff. We have seen the close quarter battles, we have seen the wide stretches. Barcelona kind of combines both of that into a very great racing facility, and we're not gonna see, thankfully, such a chaotic race like we have seen today.
I think one of the biggest talking points when we come around to Barcelona is going to be the fact that the front straightaway is so long, and the TCR's gear ratios, again, not the fast cars in the world. I think they top out at what it was 148 miles an hour. They are going to be topping out about halfway down that straightaway,
Yeah.
and they're going to be hitting that rev limiter all the way down. So we might not be seeing such a draft-heavy race for the TCRs. If anything, it's going to be the GT4s where we see all the action coming down on the front straightaway, because they're the ones that will be able to utilize the entire, what is a 1 mile stretch all the way down the road. So another 30-minute race coming up at that one. It's going to be certainly entertaining. The first race of April, too, on April the 2nd here for Friday night prime time. Then we go on over to Sonoma, Phillip Island, the Nordschleife, is I think one we're all waiting for, the 6th in round number 6 to end off the first half of the season. Then we go to Brands Hatch, Long Beach, Mid-Ohio, Charlotte Roval, the brand new Hockenheimring, finishing it off at Road Atlanta in June. So a lot of very exciting tracks coming up, and we could be seeing another thriller in Spain next week.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we have to think a little bit about Sebring when we talk about Barcelona, because we expected firmly that the GT4s will bring the heat to Sebring, but it turned out to be the TCRs, even though they didn't have really the draft playing into their favor, because also there they did run a little bit into that limiter down the backstretch. So it might be once again an open game as to who is going to provide all the action. Maybe this time around we're actually going to see everybody bring the heat to the track and really show us what a great series the Michelin Pilot Challenge really is.
We've had one race where the track has been fairly long and the racing has been exciting. We've had another race where the racing has been A bit less excited, admittedly, but it certainly has still been close and a lot more chaotic as well on a much shorter facility. Barcelona is another one of those longer tracks where I don't think we're going to have lap traffic, at least nearly as much as we did here, probably about the same degree as we did at Sebring, in all honesty. But Barcelona is its own very unique challenge, and no doubt, I don't think we can wait for next Friday.
No, I don't think either. Next Friday, as I said, is really going to tell us who is strong, who is a little bit weaker on those kind of tracks, because they're going to be the majority of the season coming up. Tracks like Barcelona that have a wide variety of corners in the repertoire. So, really, if you want to pick your favorite, if you haven't yet for the championships, wait for Barcelona and then make your picks.
I believe with that, that is about all the time that we are going to have for one day here for another presentation of Friday Night Prime Time. I'm Manola Renfro, bringing you all the coverage tonight from start to finish from the beautiful Lime Rock Park at the mountainside, with Stefan Schleich here up beside me in the commentary box, and Conrad Maddox once again behind the cameras for the entirety of today's presentation. But thank all of you for joining us here. Next week, we go overseas for the first time here for the Touring Car and GT4 Challenge. We will see you all in just 1 week's time.